There it goes.
Well, there it's live. I did
It's
hit the
live.
doodle thing,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
forgot
But
to
I
hit go
looked and
live
I
because
thought he didn't hit the live button, and then I hit it and it didn't do anything.
why did I not manage? Because I was trying to get my PowerPoint presentation open, trying to get it shared on the thing. Like so many things to do in spans of 2 seconds when we go from one lesson to the next.
Am I the only one who likes? I actually like the Safari music. It reminds me. I can just hear the in the background.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Safari?
The change in the music.
Yeah, the music.
Oh,
the new,
I don't
Remember,
like
it used to have like the little like bopping beat.
I just hear the.
Yeah. I don't remember how it was now. It's been so long. Oh my goodness, why is it? No, because at the stage. All right, so we are going to go over Excursus F today from Seow's Grammar, which is the orientation to the Hebrew Bible. It's like a discussion.
I'm going to mute myself so I'm not obnoxious. Here we go.
How does that happen with muting yourself?
Well, if I say something, it won't be caught on. Yep, it's just a discouragement from talking in general.
So I think everybody likes hearing you talk.
I try to be fun. I try to keep it fun. Yeah. But Jason, take it away. I shall be quiet.
Yes, we're going to try this without a pen. I've never done that before. Why did that go to the end of this? Let's try to hit home. Okay, there we go. And here we are. So the Hebrew Bible is made up of 3 sections. Welcome to orientation to the Hebrew Bible. I know it's an odd expression, but that's what he used in the book. So that's what we're going to run with. These 3 parts are, the first one, the Torah, law. The law is the first part. It's not really law, really means instruction, but we're going to go with the traditional way of calling it law. Why? In Greek, they call it nomos. Nomos, Moseos, the law of Moses. We're going to see that in a second. So because it calls it nomos, which actually comes from the word for like custom, I think, but it took on the meaning law. That's how we generally say it, Torah. Torah. So the first one is T for Torah. The second is Nevi'im, which is prophets. Nevi'im. So we've got TN. And the third one is Tuvim. Tuvim from Katuv, written. So Tuvim are things written. These are writings. These are Kitve Kodesh, holy writings that are not necessarily part of the prophets. I can't see if anybody's talking or asking questions. So if something comes up that I need to address, please let me know. So together, this T, N, and K, that's the Kaf, together that is Tanakh. This is Tanakh is what we call the Hebrew Bible. In Hebrew, we call it Tanakh. Tanakh means Torah, Nevi'im, Ketuvim. All right. Since the Psalms is the largest part of the Ketuvim, in the Gospel of Luke, we actually have the expression They plerothenai pantata gedramena entonomon mouseos. This is the law of Moses. Kai prophetais, kai psalmois periamu. Everything written about me in the law of Moses, the prophets, and the Psalms must be fulfilled. This is an interesting expression because when they're saying the law of Moses, the prophets, and the Psalms, they are calling it the Tanakh. That is the 3 divisions of the Bible. So Psalms is just the largest representation from that section. And so the naming of the Bible by 3 categories is an old convention. That's what I'm saying with the quotation from Luke. So this is the page that we just read. We read verses 1 through 16. This gets to the beginning of verse 10 from 1 Samuel chapter 19. This is what we read when we were together just a minute ago. So we see marking. This is a page from the Biblia Hebraica Stuttgartensia. Let me show real quick while I am here my copy of BHS. Quick, this is BHS for those who don't know. It's the standard academic Bible, Biblia Hebraica Stuttgartensia. Stuttgart is a place in Germany. It's the place where it was published. Stuttgartensia just means the Stuttgart Biblia Hebraica, because there were editions of the Biblia Hebraica, the Hebrew Bible, that came out before this one. This is actually the 4th edition. And the next edition of this publication of the Hebrew Bible is called Biblia Hebraica Quinta, because Quinta is Latin for 5th. It's the fifth edition of the Biblia Hebraica. But as it stands right now, BHS, Biblia Hebraica Stuttgartensia, is the standard academic Bible. The Quinta is being released in parts, and it's an excellent resource, but for right now, BHS is what we use. So when we look at a page of the BHS, that's what I want to look at real quick, we can see several different little pieces of the text. On the right side, if you see that, all those markings, these come from the Masorah. The tradition is handed down by the Masoretes, that is the ones who added all of the vowel points and the trope. They added all of these things to the text, but they also added marks to give us statistics about the text and how many times this word appears and where it appears and all of these things. The right side of the page is called the Masorah Parwa, the small Masorah Tana. The bottom on the green section that I've got circled there is the Masorah Magna, which is the Masorah Gdola, and it is actually in the BHS. It says MM639, MM189, and so on. MM is Masorah Magna, and the number refers to a set in a separate volume that you would need to buy, which I don't have, that would tell you all of the specific statistical details as recorded by the Masoretes. So we've got 3 things on the page outside of the text of the Bible. On the right side, the Masorah Tana. Underneath, the Masorah Gdola, and then the textual apparatus. So we want to look quickly at the textual apparatus of the verse, one of the verses that we were reading. I'm going to put the cameras back on there. So this is verse 4 from 1 Samuel chapter 19 that we were just looking at. Vaydaber Yehonatan beDavid tov el Shaul aviv. Vayomer elav al yecheta hamelech be'avdo beDavid. Ki lo chata lach v'chi ma'asav tov lecha me'od. Okay, so what we see is that in the text there are 2 instances of footnotes on. I wish I had my pen on this word. Oh, come on! See, now I'm trying to do it with a mouse and it just don't work. Yecheta has an A, and this points us to chapter 19, verse 4, letter A, and this tells us that in the Cairo Geniza we have an instead of Yecheta we have Yechete. It's just a textual difference. And it tells us for letter B right here, if we go down to B, we say non noli manuscripti. This is not no manuscripts. That means there are some manuscripts in the end, together with the Cairo Geniza again, that says lo, without the vav. So what's the purpose of the textual apparatus at the bottom of the page? This is the textual apparatus of this page. It's to give us alternative readings, suggested emendations, what it says in the Septuagint, what it says in the Dead Sea Scrolls, what it says in the Syriac, the Peshitta. We have marks for all of these things. We can see here the Peshitta. This is the Syriac letter. We can see here the Septuagint. We have marks for everything to give us tell us what the differences are in the text. So when we have basically the Masoretes, these are the men, not men and women, they were just men, who received the text of the consonantal tradition and added to it their interpretation. their interpretation was added in such a way that they put vowels on the words to indicate how they thought that how they received the tradition of how it should be pronounced and also understood. So they break it into clauses and phrases with the trope, that is the accent marks. If you can look here, you've got Al Yecheta Hamelech. So we've got this little accent here and this one here. They go together as a small phrase, Kadma Pashta. All of the words in the Bible have like musical notation written onto them and phraseology. How the word should be divided into sentences and into clauses and how we should understand it. That's how that's what the Masoretes did. So what happens when you have the text that they received, but in manuscripts you have differences? That is, the Tanakh, the Bible, was translated into ancient Greek. It was translated into ancient Aramaic, to Christian Aramaic called Syriac. It was translated into Jewish Aramaic in the Targum translation. It was used in Latin lectionaries. Like the scripture was used through generations, and through those generations, we have textual variation. So the job of the BHS is to tell the scholar who doesn't have access maybe to all of those documents where they differ in the greatest, not in every instance, but in the important instances. So the BHS is telling us where these texts differ. Okay, and so it gives us the opportunity maybe to reconstruct a different reading or to understand the text differently, but the base text is the Masoretic text. So let's look at the sources for the Masoretic text. The Masoretic text comes to us in several manuscripts. Manuscripts are handwritten documents, and each one of them has its own unique style and its unique readings. The two most important documents that have come to us are the Aleppo Codex that we'll look at right now, and the Leningrad Codex that we'll look at just after that. The Aleppo Codex is initialized just as the letter A. So the most important textual witness to the Masoretic text is A. That is the Aleppo Codex, A for Aleppo. It can be viewed online here. Okay, so MG Keter is a website that has an online copy of the Masoretic text, of the Aleppo Codex. So let's look at an example. Okay, we do this. It brings it up. Let's go back. It brings it up, this big word Tanakh. That's where we want to go. We click on Tanakh, and it says Iyun. Iyun is like looking over it, perusal. It's from the word ayin. Okay. Then we have here Sefer, book, and we want to go, for this instance, we're going to go to 1 Samuel. So that's Shmuel Aleph. It's in the prophets, Nevi'im, Shmuel Aleph. And if we go to Perek Yud Tet, this is the chapter that we're in our reading. And then we have to go back to Hatzeg, like to display Hatzeg. And at the bottom, we have Tzilum. This is Ktav Yad. This is the manuscript. Ktav Yad. That's a Kaf, Tav, Yod. Yod, it goes together. Ktav Yad means that it's written by hand. Keter Ramtsova is the name of the Aleppo Codex in Hebrew. I wish this site were in English, but it's not. This allows us to look directly at the Aleppo Codex. So the red mark indicates that this is the beginning of the chapter. Vayidaber Shaul El Yonatan Beno. This is where we get the text of the Bible. It doesn't come from some magical place. Where is the text of the Bible from? From here. This is the text of the Bible. Okay? The Aleppo Codex is the most important document that exists for the Bible. I hope you guys would agree with that. It is amazing. It's amazing that we have it. This specific document is from the middle of the 10th century.
We'll agree. I'm sorry to argue that point with you, Jason. No.
Well,
No.
it is this text. It's called Haketer, the crown, because all texts are weighed against it. They're compared to it, and it's very, very, very important. And it's amazing that we still have it. The problem is that it was damaged, and it was damaged badly.
Jason,
Yeah.
if you bring that back up.
Oh, I just closed it.
Well, I was going to say, I don't know about Macs, but on Google Chrome, you can click the three little bars in the menu, like at the top in your bookmark, like at the
This one?
like the other side.
Hold on, let me get back to the text real quick. Here we go. Eric. I'm going to go over with you at the end of this lesson how to read the numbers, like Utet is 19. I'm going to go over that at the end of this session. Okay, so I'm here.
So
what are you saying?
No, go back. I was just going to say like how you can translate it into English without it being in English.
Oh, I don't want that.
I know, but I was just going to have you show people if they wanted to use it. Yeah. Go down to translate. It should be on there somewhere. At least it was on mine.
Translate to English.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you got book, prophets, 1 Samuel. Wow, that makes it a little... Okay, so 19. And then show, Tanakh, photocopy of whatever. Okay. And you've got it here. This is the Aleppo Codex. That's how you get to it. Yeah. But I just, in Hebrew.
It's ugly, obviously, because it's just, their AI doing it. But if you wanted to navigate it, you can. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, so that's mgketer.org. MG for Mikraot Gdolot. It's the Rabbinic Bible. And Keter is for the Keter Aram Tzova, the Aleppo Codex. Keter is crown in Hebrew. MG Mikraot Gdolot. Okay, so below we see the same text from 1 Samuel 19. This is that text. This is 1 Samuel 19:4. Vayedaber Yehonatan beDavid Tov el Shaul Aviv. This is the text that we read, and if we put it in regular letters, it would look like this: Vayedaber Yehonatan beDavid Tov el Shaul Aviv. Okay, so this is the basis for the text that we use for the Bible. It's beautiful. In 1948, the state of Israel was declared by the United Nations to exist. It was said by this we declare, whatever the state would exist, we would have the state of Israel. People in a lot of countries didn't take that very well, and there were, we'll say demonstrations, but violent demonstrations against the Jews in the various countries. Syria was one of them, and Aleppo had a large pogrom break out against the Jews because they were blaming them for the establishment of a Jewish state. And the synagogue in which this text was housed for generations was attacked. And the text was pulled out, according to the story, in an attempt to save it, to get it out of the synagogue and into safe hands. And in the process, large sections of the book were lost. There are tales. I read a book about it, I think 2 years ago, that some people say that parts of it have made it to the black market, that there is hope that perhaps some of it will be restored. But essentially, we lost all of the Torah up to, I think, the 31st chapter of Deuteronomy. And Deuteronomy has what, 34, 36 chapters? And so we lost all of the Torah. It's gone. And this was a huge loss, huge loss. But the text that remains is still very considerable. We don't have like the book of Daniel, and there are other books in the text that we don't have because of the damage that the Keter sustained during that pogrom. It's insane. It's insane that this happened. But it breaks your heart, really, really, really. So, hope you are doing great. Yeah, we're doing great. I want to show you another Bible that I've mentioned before. This is called the Jerusalem Crown. Okay, it takes the name Keter from the Aleppo Codex, Keter. Calls it Keter Yerushalayim. This is a book published by the Hebrew University in Jerusalem as the official Bible of the university. And it is modeled after the shape and look of the Aleppo Codex. Maybe I'll show you just my camera. It's made to look like the text of the Aleppo Codex. That was their goal in making it. But the problem is we have the Torah here, and we have all of the other books that are missing from the Aleppo Codex. How did we get them? The places that we don't have in the Aleppo... Yes. So the places we don't have in the Aleppo Codex are filled in by the Leningrad Codex. The Leningrad Codex is the second most important document of the Hebrew Bible that we have. It is from the mid-11th century. It's about 90 to 100 years after the Aleppo Codex. I think it's the year 1008 is the exact year for the Leningrad Codex, and it is complete. It's complete, and we have it online. This is exciting for you, right? It can be viewed online at tanakh.us. The US is in the United States. All right, so let's look at how you access it. And this is actually from the facsimile here is from Sefaria. It's from Sefaria's website. So, but it's easy to access. We go to tanakh.us. We click on 1 Samuel. Click on 19. And then we can click on the verses that we want to see. So we're looking at verse 4. No way. How do I do that? Okay, so let's go back. We go to tanakh.us. Okay, it pulls this up. We look at 1 Samuel. We look at chapter 19, verse 4. We need to give a verse range. So we're going to click 4 and then 5. We need to give it a range. And then at the bottom left, it says Sefaria, color image of Leningrad Codex. We hit go, and it will pull up two things. It pulls up two pages. One, it's the full, all of the text that's represented on that page of the Leningrad Codex, and the actual facsimile, what the text looks like. So this is the Leningrad Codex of that whole page. Okay, beautiful. The Leningrad Codex scribe was not as careful as the Aleppo Codex scribe, but the text is still very, very useful and a great witness to the text of the Hebrew Bible. Why do I say that he's not as careful? I'll show you in just a second. Let's close that. So this is the Leningrad Codex of the same verse. Vayidaber Yehonatan b'David tov el Shaul aviv. Okay, this is this text exactly moved over into how we would print it today. So let's look at the two of them side by side. There is one aspect that we see here in the Aleppo Codex. Something that you might not have noticed, but I notice. Above the dalet of the first word, vayidaber, there's a little line. It looks like it's between the yod and the dalet. It's actually marking dalet. This is called rafa, that little mark. And rafa is used to indicate several things. One is this soft form of a beged kefet letter. It also marks the hey when hey is a vowel letter. And it marks quiescent aleph. Not always, but many times. So the scribe in the Aleppo Codex was far more consistent. Look at the word Vedavid. I want to mark it, but I can't because my pen. But in the fourth line, the first line is Vaidaber, second line Tov, Elav, and in the fourth line it says Vedavid. All three of those letters are marked with Rafa because they're all Beged Kefet letters and they're soft. Okay? He doesn't mark every single one. If we look at the end of line 3, Be'avdo, the bet does not have Rafa. But here, the word in front of it, Hamelech, the Chaf, has Rafa. And here above that, Vayomer, the Aleph that is quiescent, has Rafa. Okay,
What about Skinnem Lady letters? Does he mark that? Is that what's being marked in Vaidaver, or is it the Dalit?
It's the Dalit.
Okay, it's not. Well, like the reason I ask is because look how it's to the right.
Yeah.
But
in Vayomer, it's off to the left. Like it's not perfectly aligned. And look at the third line. It says Elav al yecheta. He's let the lamed from the line below cut between the chataf segol. So you'll not find things perfectly lined up. This is really old text.
Yeah, it's just that in all the other Dalits, they are like looking in Vadavid, like it is they're right over the top.
Yeah.
Of the Dalits. That's why I asked that. And
I don't think we would find it consistent with any consistency of marking Skinnem Levy. Like I don't think that was the purpose of the Rafa.
I'm just saying.
But if we look at the Leningrad Codex, we don't see this consistency. We do find it, like, see if you look down on line 4, Be'avdo ve David. It's marking that initial bet as soft. Ve David. Right? But the use of the Rafa is far less consistent. And there are other things within the text that are not as perfect as what we have in the Aleppo Codex. Did you want to add something? No. Okay. So one benefit of the Leningrad Codex, the one on the right, is that it's a complete text. We have the entirety of the Bible. And it is the basis, because of its completeness, not because of its perfection, but it is the basis of the base text of the BHS, Biblia Hebraica Stuttgartensia. And it's been digitized as the Westminster Leningrad Codex online. That's available in many places. So if you look WLC, that's the text. Let's see, I'll show you. For example, you've got Bible Gateway. This is a popular place to read online, the Bible. Let's see, Bible Gateway. If we look up 1 Samuel 19:4, that's the verse we've been using. It's not going to pop up in the Greek New Testament. So let's go to a different, come on, hold on. Let's go to a different Bible, any of them. Okay, if we go to any Bible, if we click on the top row and we put WLC as version, it's going to pull up the Leningrad Codex, just the text. The WLC is the digitization of the Leningrad Codex. Okay, so this is WLC. All right. and that is all over the internet because it's basically the text that is freely available. All right. That is the Aleppo Codex, suffered major damage in a pogrom. We already talked about that. The extant text begins late in Deuteronomy and is missing several books and pages throughout. So those are the two major texts. There are other text manuscripts of the Masoretic tradition, but they are not as important as these two. But they do offer variant readings and suggestions when necessary.
There was,
Yeah.
if I can add something, there was one that recently came up about, I don't know, 4 years ago on for sale called Codex Sassoon, but now they're calling it manuscript S1, MS1, manuscript, and then S1 is Codex. They're calling it Codex S1. That's what it's going to be named, but it came up actually on the market and was bought. I think this happened in 3 years ago, maybe in 2022, I want to think. But it's another one, and it is as old as Aleppo, and it's considered to be as old as Aleppo, but not as old as, but by virtue being older than Leningrad, by some. So just throwing that out there.
Cool.
But it's missing about 40% of its leaves at this point. So I just thought I'd throw it out there.
Leaves because it is codex, and codex is like. There is a man who went through and listed all of the manuscripts in a very big list, and all of the changes that they have in them. And his last name was Kennicott. And so at the bottom of the page in the BHS that I mentioned, the Masora Magna, at the bottom of the page, all of these are numbers that reference the Kennicott lists. Is that it? No. Sorry? No, not these numbers. In the textual apparatus where it says MSS, manuscripts, here it says many manuscripts read L. When it says manuscripts here, you can actually look it up in Kennicott's list and find exactly.
All we see is the PowerPoint.
Sorry, I thought I was showing you me. I apologize. Kind of get used to this thing more than that. Doesn't matter. The point is that Kennicott made a list of all of the documents, of all of the texts and their differences, and nobody's done it since him, and everyone relies on his work. But and it's available on archive.org. You can look up the lists. Anyway, so besides the Masoretic tradition, the most important textual witnesses are the Dead Sea Scrolls that everybody raves about, especially that great Isaiah scroll, 1Q Isaiah A, that everybody loves. Great. So apart from the Dead Sea Scrolls, we have the Septuagint, which is generally this little G, Gothic G. This is the translation into Old Greek. There were actually several versions of the Septuagint. There's the Lucianic recension. There's the one that was put together by Origen, but we don't have a copy of it. There was, don't even remember, but there were also other ancient Greek texts, and at one point they were all called Septuagint, and they can't all be that. We don't know what was the original Septuagint. It was just the Torah. But secondly, we have the Targumim. The Targum is the Aramaic translations that were put together. They say because people weren't speaking Hebrew anymore, Aramaic was easier for them to understand, so they put it into Aramaic. It was like putting it in the common language. Today, it's not the common language. And then there's the Vulgate, which was Jerome's translation originally into colloquial Latin. It's Vulgate because it's the vulgar language, meaning that it was put into the language of the common man. and not into high, difficult Latin. It was easy Latin for people to understand. But again, that's not the language of the people anymore. And then there was the Peshitta. Peshitta is the Aramaic, Syriac Bible. It was the Old and New Testament that was written out for Christians who spoke Aramaic in the Syrian province. Actually, in the New Testament, it says that Christians were first called Christian in Syria. That is in what was the town?
Antioch.
Yeah, exactly. This squiggly line, when you see it in the text, it means a Samaritan Pentateuch. Remember, the Samaritans were viewed as half-bloods or something, if we want to be rude about it. They were northerners that were from the northern tribes, apparently, that were mixed with other people. I'm not really sure, but they were kind of hated by the Judeans. But they had their own copy of the Torah with interesting distinctions, and it is still handwritten in the in the Paleo Hebrew script that has been adapted in their own sense. Definitely interesting. And then there was Origen's. Mm-hmm.
I was just going to say one of the biggest differences that Zion and Jerusalem are very frequently replaced with Gerizim, Mount Gerizim instead of Mount Zion. That just being one of the biggest differences. But in a lot of ways, they line up pretty amazingly.
Yeah, it's definitely something that can be used as a contrast to see the way that the text evolved.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Origen's Hexapla, which we wish that we had today. We still have portions of it, but not. It was a 6-column document that included the Hebrew and the 3 different translations into Greek and a phonetic representation and an amazing text that I wish we had today, but we don't. All right, so looking at the idea of the Masoretes receiving a consonantal text, if we look at the Dead Sea Scrolls, how about we look at one of the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Great Isaiah Scroll, really quick, because we can. Again, just like the Aleppo Codex and the Leningrad Codex, the Great Isaiah Scroll is online. You can just go to DSS Collections, and it will let you view the Great Isaiah Scroll like this. You just click it. And you can move through the different chapters, and it shows it as if it were a scroll. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When we look at this, we see that there are no vowels. The text is completely consonantal, and it's kind of squiggly for us. Doesn't look like how we would read Hebrew. But
I think typeset. I need typeset font.
Exactly. Exactly. So you can see the difference between this, which dates to 100, maybe 200 BCE,
mm-hmm.
and the Aleppo Codex and the Leningrad Codex, which are very clean editions of Hebrew. The Masoretes would have received a text similar to this, a text that is only consonants. And on top of all of these consonants, they added marks, the dots and the little squiggly lines and all of those things so that we are able to read it clearly. Okay. So when the Masoretes received the text, sometimes they found what they thought were problems in the text. Now, what can you do when you receive a holy text that is all consonants and you read it and you say, ooh, it looks like there's a problem? Do you just change it? They decided they would not change the text that they received. The text was firm. So what do? You add notation to the text. So if they received, let's say this is a Paleo Hebrew copy of Genesis 27:29, we see that red word right there. Underneath it, we see the blue word. Those should be the same word. It should be, but you see the end is missing on the top one. There should be 2 of those little marks. Those marks are the vav. The word here is ve'yishtachavu. Ve'yishtachavu, and let them bow down. Let's look at the text. This is the text as we received it from the Masoretes. Yavducha amim. Ve'yishtachavu lecha le'umim. Heve gvir le'achecha V'yishtachavu lecha b'nei imecha. Okay, so the red word and the blue word should be the same, but one is missing a vav. So the Masoretes, instead of changing it, just adding a vav, notice they wrote underneath shuruk. Underneath the vav they wrote kubutz. So they're marking it as saying v'yishtachavu, but the vav is missing. What they did is they put a circle above it. You see the circle, and then in a note on the side, this is what's written. This is called ktiv. Ktiv is the Aramaic word for what is written. You can see that word ktiv. It's like Hebrew katuv. Katuv. Ktiv is what is written, and so they took what's written and they added in the margin of the text the consonants that need to be there, that should be there, the correction. And underneath that correction, they wrote a little kuf with a dot on top of it. And the kuf means kri, which is the Aramaic word for read. If what is written is ktiv, then what is read, what you say when you read, is kri. Okay, and together this forms a system that we call kri uchtiv. Kri, read, uchtiv, and written. That they can be different things. They are corrections to the text. So let's look at how this one specifically plays out in the text of the Aleppo Codex. This is the Aleppo Codex. No? This is the Leningrad Codex underneath, because the Aleppo we don't have for Genesis. The Torah doesn't, it's not extant. So we see the same text. That is, we see Yavducha in the middle of the first line. That's the first word of the verse. Ve'yishtachavu is the first word in the second line. Ve'yishtachavu, it has the kubutz at the end on the vav, and there's a circle above the taf telling us to look in the margin, and then we see the consonants ve'yishtachavu with two vavs. Underneath it is the letter kuf with a dot on top of it. This is telling us that the kri, so here is the word itself. This is the correction in the body of the text. And then we see the blue at the end. This is the second occurrence. That's how the word is supposed to look. Ve'yishtachavu. So this is what we have. When the Masoretes wanted to correct something, they did not correct it by changing the letters of the Bible. They did it by adding a note in the margin called kri with a kuf. Okay, so that's what we have in Genesis 27:29. And when we look at the BHS, our Biblia Hebraica Stuttgartensia, we see in red ve'yishtachavu with the kubutz underneath the vav and the circle on top of the word telling us to look in the margin. And in the margin it says ve'yishtachavu with no points and kuf underneath it with a dot. The kuf with the dot means kri. And then you can see the second instance of the word underneath it. So that is how the kri uktiv works. The last thing I want to cover, we do have some time here, is how to represent numbers when in the Hebrew text. This is not a biblical thing, because the Bible didn't use numbers like this. But later on, when we wanted to get to the numbers, this is how it's like Roman numerals. Like Roman numerals, you've got I, and you've got 2 I's and 3 I's, and you've got IV. So in Hebrew, you would use, let me erase. We've got Aleph for 1, obviously, Bet for 2, Gimel for 3, Dalet for 4, Hey for 5, and it just goes down the numbers until you get to 10. So that's 1 through 10. Aleph, Beit, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yod. Very, very easy. Once you hit Yod, that is the 10th letter. Just so you know, my name, Jason, starts with an iota in Greek because it's a Greek name, Yason. Yason. Iota is the 10th letter in the Greek alphabet. So iota, iota, iota. is the 10th letter in Greek, and Yod is the 10th letter in Hebrew. So it's easy to remember Yod and Yota. But these are the Y sounds in Greek and Hebrew are the 10th number. So Iota stands for 10 in Greek, and Yod stands for 10 in Hebrew. So if you're thinking of where to break, Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet to Yod, Yod is 10. And then you start with Aleph again. So the next you do, okay. Now we've got Yod Aleph. Yod is 10, Aleph is 1. Yod Bet, Yod Gimel, Yod Dalet, okay? Once we get to Yod Hey, that's a problem because Yod Hey is the name of God. Yod Hey, and then Vav Hey, right? This is God's name. So Yod Hey Yah is one of the names of God, and we don't want to use that as a number. So what we do is we back up instead of 10 and 5, we say let's make it 9 and 6. 9 and 6. Tet and Vav 2. Tet and Vav represents 15. 9 and 6 instead of 10 and 5 because 10 and 5 is God's name. So 9 and 6. The next one instead of Yod and Hey Vav, Yod Vav, which is like Yonatan. Also, Yo is the name of God in Yonatan. So instead of Yo, we'll back up again and we'll say 9 plus 7. 9 plus 7 is 16. So 9 plus 6 is 15, and 9 plus 7 is 16. And that's how we get those numbers. Because these two, we do not want to write the names of God as numbers. So we back up to 9. And then we come back to 10. We've got 10 and 7 is 17. 10 and 8 is 18. 10 and 9 is 19. And we get to the next letter, 20. Kaf. Okay, so we go Aleph to Yod, then Yod Aleph down to Yud Tet and Kaf. Kaf is 20. And remember, these two are the names of God, so we don't use those. Okay? And for the next, I hope this is making sense. It should make sense. It's logical. So if Kaf is 20, then Kaf Aleph is 21, Kaf Bet is 22, Kaf Gimel, Kaf Dalet, Kaf Hey. There's no contradiction here with using Hey and Vav because Ko and Ku are not names of God, so it doesn't matter. 30 is Lamed. And then you do it again, Lamed Aleph, Lamed Bet, Lamed Gimel. So like Lamed Gimel is 33, and the 33rd day of the Omer, that is the time that we count between Passover, Passover and the Feast of, what is it? Lag BaOmer. The Omer is from Passover until, what is the next feast? Pentecost. Yes. Shavuot. Yeah, Shavuot. It's weeks. So from Passover, Pesach, until Shavuot, there are like 49 days, I think. 40 days, 49 days. I don't even know these guys. Not a religious observant person. But you count the Omer. And on the 33rd, Lag BaOmer, Lamed Gimel, Lag BaOmer, you have a day in which there's a big celebration because of some things that were happening in the rabbinic period. You're allowed to cut your hair where you don't cut your hair during the Omer, but on that you can. It doesn't matter. So if 30 is Lamed, then you go 10s all the way down. Mem is 40, Nun 50, Samech 60, Ayin 70, Pei 80, Sadi 90, Kuf is 100, and for us, that's as far as you really go. Kuf is 100, and then after that, you don't go back to 20s and whatever. You go 200, 300, 400. Okay, so we can go up to 400 without doubling any of the hundreds. So if I want 123, kuf, kaf, gimel. 123. So this is how we read verse numbers in printed Bibles that are used in Israel. The numbers are like this. We don't use like the Arabic numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But in the BHS, the Biblia Hebraica Stuttgartensia, the Bible that we've been talking about all day, in this one, it's Arabic numbers, the ones that you're used to in English. By the way, they're called Arabic numbers. Doesn't mean that they don't even use them in the Arabic script today. They don't use it, but that's where we got our numbers from Arabic. Cool. That is for me the end of the lesson. I hope that was useful for you to get into like how we get the text of the Bible, how we understand textual criticism in the Hebrew Bible. It's quite different from textual criticism in the New Testament, because in the New Testament you have like 5,000 manuscripts, right? And the Hebrew Bible is a lot simpler than that. We don't have as many important manuscripts in the Hebrew tradition, but we have to compare it to all those other translations and the Dead Sea Scrolls and the this and that. We are very lucky to have the BHS and to have the BHQ coming out. Anyway, what we're looking at for April 10th, that is this Thursday, we're going to do a review reading of the Bible passages from lessons 11 to 13. That's our goal. On Monday next week, we're going to do at 5 o'clock the David story that we're working on. And at 6 o'clock, we're going to look at lesson 15 from Seow's Grammar, which is about the PL, the next binyan that we're going to be tackling. And then that Thursday next week, we're going to do the homework for lesson 14. So that's what we have to look forward to. I made it through without a pen. I was using a mouse to write on the screen. That is some low-tech stuff. I didn't like it. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope it was useful. Yeah, I enjoyed.
I've been talking with my mic off the whole time. I said, "Yay, you did it!"
Yeah, I didn't know what you were saying. But if you have a chance, try to read from the Aleppo Codex, because I think you will get a sense of the ancient nature of the text if you spend time with that document. Yeah, that's all I've got for today.
Sweet.
Yeah, so we took a road off of the path, and sometimes we need to do that because the grammar can get so heavy and stressful that you just need to take a breather and get a big picture and say, what are we doing? Why are we learning this language? Where are we going? And for me, the Aleppo Codex is a passion, and it's such a treasure. It's amazing that we have something like this. It's 1,000 years old. It's insane. It's crazy to me that we have a text that's so old. But I hope that you will take advantage of the fact that it's been digitized for us and that we can look up a passage and read it. If you would like any practice doing that, and you just want to read some from the Aleppo Codex, let me know, and we'll try to incorporate that into some of the lessons.
What did people do before the internet? When they wanted to look at manuscripts, they had to travel from Europe to Jerusalem to the U.S. and back and again. It's like, what?
We are so fortunate to be living in the times in which we're living. I mean, in some aspects.
Yeah, in some ways. Anyways.
Yeah. All right, guys. Love you much. Patreon guys, come over and meet with us. TheHebrewCafe.com is on Patreon. I should put this up here. Banners. Here we go. Patreon.com/TheHebrewCafe. We're going to get in with our Patreon members and do a communicative Hebrew lesson. That's what we're going to do right now. The link's on Patreon.com.
And we have a Discord.
Yes. So if you would like to come and talk to us on Discord, throw out ideas, thehebrewcafe.com/discord is the place for that. All right. It's been a pleasure. We didn't get a lot of comments out there, but you guys are saying thank you. So hope you enjoyed. We'll see you next week. If you don't come on Thursday, please come on Thursday. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
We need an outro.